Good Friday morning. We'll continue, but in the letter to James, he gets on. He's exhorting, not extorting. He might be doing that too, but he's exhorting his followers. Put your money where your mouth is. Are you going to say you have faith? You better look out for the guy. If the guy's poor, don't tell him good luck and he has nothing to wear and good luck and stay warm. Give him some of your clothes. That's what he's saying. Put your money where your mouth is. That's my reduction of the letter to James today. But the Gospel and Mark, these are famous texts. Okay. And this is a lifetime that reveals this kind of thing to you, okay? And at least to me, the meaning and the wisdom of the cross, it comes here. Okay, and he said, Jesus summoned the crowd with his disciples and said to them, whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. It's what I said yesterday in this regard. You embrace, you don't go looking for the cross, but you accept the cross and you take it on. If you seek to be my follower, see, take up your cross and follow me. Now here's the great line. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and that of the gospel will save it. And is an incredibly succinct line of wisdom. He who seeks to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and the sake of the gospel will save it. He's using it's a very paradoxical, as if you should not love your life or to save one's life. Of course you have to save your life, okay? He's not saying that in those kind of negative terms. What he's saying, if you put yourself first and always first, you will lose. But if you are willing to give yourself, you will win. The giving of Christ, the following of Christ, is the giving of oneself to each other. It's self-sacrificial love is what it comes down to. You know where this text really got to me? When I was doing high school retreats, that had to be in had to be when I was stationed in Baltimore. So I didn't remember. Never did any of that stuff when I was in Louisville when I was teaching. We didn't do retreats there. So it was in Baltimore. We did 50 or 60 high school retreats in the 2 years I was there. That's right. And we had a film that we used to show at that time. It's called This Solitude Through Which We Go Is I. We used to show it to the kids. And 3/4 of the film was photographs. This was a work of art. This is a phenomenal piece of work. It was photographs of human loneliness. Extremely poignant film. It showed people together but not together. People who were next to each other but not touching. It showed a man and a woman, a young person with each other. Boy and a girl, a young woman, I don't know, boy and a girl, who apparently loved each other but didn't touch. They didn't touch each other. And there was a sense that was together with absence. There was no emptiness. There was no intimacy, there was emptiness. And so the way this solitude through which we go is I. You see, we're alone. Solitude can be communicative. I live in a solitary way, solitude. But I'm not taken away from the community of love, my family, my friends, my art, even if I don't live with them. There's an intimacy of heart. It's when you say this solitude to which we go is I alone, and you're alone. And it is a contagious disease because it perverts everything around you. Because what it does is it dissolves any attempt at intimacy and communion. And what it does, it introduces a life of self-preservational manipulation. You manipulate the world around you, turning everything into a utility for your own sake. And that's what that film showed. More and more and more, the loneliness and poverty, and not in the holy sense of poverty, but the poverty of spirit, in the sense of people who are radically poor and alone. Not because they had no money, because they had no soul. And it culminates in the explosion over Hiroshima, the atomic bomb. They want to show it, this leads to death. Isolation and solitude in that egocentric sense leads in the end to violence. In the end it leads to violence. Because we strike out in self-defense. In the world of philosophy, that's the world of Thomas Hobbes. That's the world of Thomas Hobbes. Where he said everyone is enemy to everyone else. And our natural virtues are to seek our own self-preservation at the cost of others. How about them apples? Okay? I tell my students, and I show the movie The Godfather. This is where you get, this in the end, you'll die alone. You live like this, you die alone. It's just the gospel, the reversal of the gospel. The gospel says if you want to live your life, you've got to give it up. You follow Christ, you take up your cross. You sacrifice your life, and then you don't end up sacrificing it at all. You have the fulfillment of life because you're willing to love with abandon, with trust. See? See, whoever loses his life for my sake, who hands it on for my sake and the sake of the gospel, which is the church, the people, will save it. You'll be rich with life. Boy, that is just true. Anybody who does marriage counseling knows that. You want to see a bad marriage, see one in which selfishness is the dominant theme, or manipulation, or utility, when you see each other as useful for meeting one's needs. In the movie The Godfather, when Michael, you got to know the film or you won't get it, when he comes back after being in Sicily where his wife, Apollonia, is blown up in his place, instead of getting him that got her. You got to know the movie. He comes back after having avoided ever joining his father's criminal world. He comes back to a quintessential example of that world. And he says to Kay, who was his fiancée before he went to Italy, okay? Before he assassinates the Turk and he assassinates McCluskey, the cop, okay? He comes back, and when he approaches Kay up in New Hampshire, which was a symbol of innocence on her part, he says to her, I need you. He didn't say he loved her until after he says he needs her. That's a contractual relationship. There'll never be intimacy. If you watch the whole movie, 1 and 2, and then even the end, even 3, you'll see there's no intimacy between them. There's no communion. There's functionality. There's a lot of wisdom. He who loses his life will find it, but he who seeks to find his life will lose it. Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life, who looks out for himself, will lose it. Michael dies alone in the end of Godfather 3. He dies alone in Sicily. Even the dog that's with him walks away. Nobody cares. What a horrible ending. It's the story. He loses his life. I think if you want to understand this text, just watch that movie. All 7 hours of it, you'll see it. Played out brilliantly, but you'll see what happens when you seek your life, you'll lose it. When you're out for yourself, in the end, you'll get that alone. Even the dog won't warm. Even the dog won't grieve you when you die. Nobody does. One of the most horrible scenes, I think, in my pastoral experience is when you have a funeral and no one cries. You made no difference. You got what you paid for, yourself. You got yourself. But if you were generous and you loved passionately others, your spouse, your children, when they came first, and you bore the cross that requires self-sacrifice in all its forms, and you are never alone. You are never alone. The world will be joining you. The world that you love, the world that will join you. That's your family, your friends, your family, because you have loved them well. So you have loved them well. I got to think that when we die, what God's going to ask us, what did you do with the people I gave you in life? What did you do with your life? If you say, I kept my nose clean, I don't think he's going to be very happy with you. But if you said, I loved them as best I could, hopefully I loved them well. He'll say, come on in, you're right. See, you tried, you loved them well. I think of that all the time. I hope that those whom I have loved, when it comes to the judgment, and they are the judges, they'd say, Ted, you loved me well. Imperfectly, but you loved me well. I hope that, profoundly hope that. Then in the course of my life, I have loved well. Imperfectly, but strenuously well. I hope so. I can't think of a worse condemnation than to die alone, with no one caring, because you haven't loved them well. You haven't taken up that cross. Instead, you have sought only your own self-interest. What a horrible way to live and die. You will live alone, you're going to die alone.